Hello, my dear students. I'm Dr. Vaishali Bharambe, Development and Histology. You will wonder, why should I study histology? Remember, students, mammary gland is basically about its histology. If you don't know histology, you're never going to be able to diagnose nor treat breast cancer, which is one of the major pathologies affecting breast. Correct? So, understand the histology. Right. Before I begin, please keep some color pencils, drawing sheets with you. Whenever I ask you to draw, you should be able to quickly do the diagram. Right. So the topic for today, development and histology of mammary gland with the related applied anatomy. Oh wow, this is an elephant. What is it doing in my lecture? Okay, it's here because all mammals have an ability to nourish their young through milk produced by specialized glands called the mammary glands. Like an elephant, like any other mammal, we too are mammals and therefore have got mammary gland or breast. Okay, right. So, what is the human breast made up of? It's made up of breast tissue, an areola, and a nipple. There are similarities in the breast of the male and the female, and then striking differences, as you are well aware. To understand this, we need to first understand how really does the mammary gland develop. Okay, so in the intrauterine life, at some point, mammary lines develop. Please take a look here. You can see there is a mammary line. The mammary line extends from the patient's axilla to the groin region. That's along this entire line you can develop mammary glands. Over a period of time, the mammary glands regress, and only the pectoral region, there is a tissue remaining which can develop into mammary gland. That is how we humans have got mammary glands only in the pectoral region. Of course, you have seen in animals there are mammary glands along the entire mammary line. Right. So now what happens? At the site where the mammary gland is supposed to develop, you can see there is an ectoderm and there is a mesoderm. Slowly, around the 5th month, the ectoderm begins to depress downwards, resulting in development. Just keep on seeing. I have tried to make it as visual as possible because it's easy. Just have to understand it. So a small pit develops at the point where the mammary gland is supposed to develop. This is called as the mammary pit. You can see how epithelial cords have started to depress downwards. Okay. Over a period of time, these epithelial cords form what is called lactiferous duct. Please note this lactiferous duct here. The lactiferous duct soon develop such ampullated ends which are the precursors of future glandular tissue. But you can see that the mammary pit continues to persist. Just before birth, the underlying mesoderm quickly rises up and results in development of the nipple. So what you are seeing here now is a ductal system which over a period of time will get canalized, but the rudimentary ductal system of mammary gland will remain so till person hits puberty. This is an absolutely rudimentary mammary gland. Right. Even in this, there can be anomalies. For example, there can be no mammary gland at all. If the mammary milk line has regressed, it may regress completely. No mammary gland. There may be multiple nipples formed instead of 2. There may be more than 2 breasts formed. There can be an inverted nipple. Now, this is something you must all note. When the nipple normally is protruding outwards, if it can go inside, it can be congenital. It can be as a result of underlying cancerous changes. In both cases, this has to be noted. Okay. So now let's talk about the development of mammary gland in males and females. As you can see, this is the nipple and this is the areola. In the male, the mammary gland is barely a set of ducts limited to the edge of areola. This is what male breast is all about. Of course, sometimes in the male also you can see breast formation. For example, in Klinefelter syndrome, there is a mammary gland formation. Or for example, in case of impaired liver function, there is a gradual development of mammary gland-like tissue. And of course, please note that in case the mammary gland of the male develops cancerous changes, the prognosis is worse than that in females. Okay, so this is the rudimentary mammary gland we see in males. This is exactly what we see in an immature female. Okay, immature as in the person who's not hit puberty. So in the male and in the female, the size of the mammary gland is the same till the female hits puberty. After that, changes will take place that will make her mammary gland different from that in the male. Right. So now that girl has hit puberty. Okay, then what happens? See how the ducts have started to expand. So the ducts branch and rebranch. At the end of the ducts, can you see cellular clusters appearing? So first the ducts branch. At the ends of branches, such cellular clusters appear, and finally a breast gets formed, made up of this ductal system that you are seeing, supported by a lot of stroma from the surrounding connective tissue and a lot of adipose tissue. So the mammary gland that you see is basically ductal system supported by stroma and fat. This is how during puberty the female develops a visible mammary gland. There are steps in development. You can always read up about them. Right. So now the gland that has developed is a compound tubuloalveolar gland made up of such lobes. Can you see there are lobes here? Each lobe is made up of tiny grape-like lobules. All the lobules drain into forming one lobe, drain into one lactiferous duct. And that lactiferous duct has a small dilatation distally. Note the dilatation here. And finally, it opens on the surface of the nipple. So we'll do this again. You will understand. Okay. So let us discuss the microscopic structure of this mammary gland. For that, I want you to come back and take a look at a schematic diagram. This is a mammary gland that has been variably dissected. First, the skin. Remove the skin. Subcutaneous tissue. Remove the subcutaneous tissue. You can see lobes arranged radially. Can you see them arranged radially? Okay. Each lobe is made up of a number of, there are many lobes, and each lobe is separated from the other by connective tissue septa. Okay. And each lobe is made up of a number of lobules, as you can see. The lobes drain into lactiferous duct. Lactiferous duct drains into the nipple. If I take a section of this gland, this is what it will look like, which is the microscopic structure, which is what we're going to study today. One more time. This is a section of the mammary gland, completely schematic. Okay. This is one lobe. So like I told you, the lobes will be arranged radially. Okay. So this is one lobe. I have further expanded the lobe, and I can see how the lobe is made up of lobules. One lobe, many lobules. Each lobule is made up of alveoli draining into ductules. Please look at the diagram. It's self-explanatory. Okay. Alveoli draining into ductules. Ductules draining into intralobular duct. What does that mean? Duct inside the lobule. Many intralobular ducts drain into interlobular ducts, which drain into lactiferous ducts. Each lactiferous duct shows a little dilatation just beneath the areola, which is called lactiferous sinus. And finally, this opens on the surface of the nipple. There are about 15 to 20 lobes. So how many openings will you find on the nipple? You will find 15 to 20 openings. Okay. Now take a look at how milk will flow from the alveolus to the surface. This is how the milk will flow. What is the histological section appearing like? Okay. So now you've got a woman who has hit puberty. She's never got pregnant. She's completed her puberty now. She's got a visible, clearly appearing mammary gland. What is the microscopic structure of this mammary gland like? Okay. Basically, I don't want you to read this. This is kept only for students who want to actually read later on. Okay. Otherwise, just this block is what you should understand. A passive mammary gland is basically made up of ducts and their branches, supported by connective tissue, stroma, and adipose cells. Just a ductal system, some cells at the end of it, remember, cluster of cells, supported by connective tissue and adipose tissue. Let's take a look at a diagram. I'm confident you will be able to understand. Now, the passive mammary gland shows number of lobules. These are lobules. Each lobule shows presence of some inactive alveoli in the form of cell clusters. Okay? Do these clusters have any activity? No, they are inactive. They are just a collection of cells. It also shows presence of intralobular ducts, at the base of which you see your favorite cell, the myoepitheliocyte or myoepithelial cell. The tissue inside a lobule is loose areola. Now this is important. Why do you have loose areolar tissue? Because at some point this lobule will be packed with alveoli. Okay, so they are going to need space to expand. If you have dense tissue, they will never be able to expand. So loose areolar tissue makes sense. Okay. The tissue in between lobules, interlobular connective tissue, is dense, irregular. Okay, this is supporting. It has to be dense. See, mammary gland is a very soft tissue. You need something which is dense to be able to support it. So tissue in between lobules is dense, irregular. It shows presence of interlobular ducts, blood vessels, and some amount of adipose tissue. That's all. Passive mammary gland is equal to ducts, clusters at the ends of ducts, lobules which are full of loose areolar tissue, separated by dense irregular connective tissue showing interlobular ducts, blood vessels, and fat. So now here I want you to look at this table. Remember, mammary gland is to be understood under the following headings. What are the lobules like? What is between the lobules? And is there myoepithelial cell or not? Lobules will contain intralobular ducts. What is the epithelium of these ducts? If it contains cell clusters in it, have the cluster developed lumen in them? Are they secreting milk? What is the height of epithelium of them? That you should know. What is the connective tissue inside the lobule like? Okay, what type of connective tissue is it and how much is it? Between lobules, again, what type of connective tissue? And interlobular connective tissue, what type and how much? Is there a duct there, interlobular duct? What is the epithelium of the duct? Are there blood vessels? Is there the presence of adipose tissue more or less? And finally, is there presence of myoepitheliocyte? Just remember this table and describe along the table. You will find yourself automatically coming to the correct points. Right. So now I just told you how there was an interlobular connective tissue which was dense irregular. Understand that this dense irregular connective tissue attaches the mammary glandular tissue to the overlying surface. Can you imagine that? This is the gland. These are the connective tissue septa attaching it to the overlying skin and fascia. These ligaments that it forms are called suspensory ligaments of Cooper. Now you are wondering, madam, why are you giving me all this? I am giving you all this because this is what you should know. Why? Because when the patient develops cancer, the cancer cells spread along these septa, anchoring the tumor to the overlying skin. Now what happens? The breast, which is so beautifully rounded, begins to show some dimpling on it. There is a break in the curvature of the mammary gland. The patient feels as something, I don't know. Actually, that's the very important indicator for which she should immediately visit her doctor and maybe catch the breast cancer on time. So, suspensory ligaments of Cooper are paths along which the cancer cells spread, and that is why we must know about them. Right. So students, if you are enjoying this lecture, please like and subscribe to the channel. Do share your thoughts in the comment section. It helps me to understand what you need and how further I can enhance my videos to suit your needs. Right. Let's continue. Changes in mammary gland with pregnancy. One day she is now pregnant. This woman with a mammary gland is now pregnant. What changes will take place? Basically, just remember two things. Ductal system will multiply and proper alveoli will be formed. Remember, first there were cell clusters. Now there are proper alveoli. Okay? And the ductal system has expanded. Now what happens? Take a look. This is the early mammary gland. Cell clusters and ducts have multiplied. Now what happens? Ducts undergo further branching. And the alveoli which are distal, can you see the change? The alveoli develop a lumen in them. They increase in number. Okay, they are all preparing for the major function of milk secretion. Because the alveoli develop a lumen, they increase in number. The lobule that was kind of empty now gets packed up. Okay, so let's take a look. Can you see this is an enlarged lobule full of alveoli? This is another enlarged lobule. This is another enlarged lobule. Alveoli have increased in number and also develop a lumen in them. Can you see how the number of alveoli has increased and they have developed a lumen in them? What then has happened at the base of the alveolus? You can see a myoepithelial cell ready to do its job. What about intralobular connective tissue? Remember, it was loose areola. It has now reduced because alveoli have used that space to spread out. Okay, so decrease in the number of intralobular connective tissue, whereas the interlobular connective tissue remains almost the same. There are interlobular ducts, blood vessels, and some increase in adipose tissue. Now let's be practical. You have, I'm sure, appreciated how the mammary gland of a female who is in early pregnancy clearly looks a size larger. Okay, so these are the reasons why all this is happening. Right. So what happens now in the late pregnancy? What happens in late pregnancy is that these alveoli now become secretory. Doesn't mean that she starts to secrete milk. No. But the alveoli develop secretory function. So they further increase in the size. So when they secrete a peculiar milk which is called as colostrum, which is rich in protein, rich in maternal antibodies, and they also have a laxative-like substance. Okay, so this was the early pregnancy mammary gland. This is the late pregnancy mammary gland. Again, I'm sure you've seen that just before delivery, the mammary glands of the female are pretty large. Okay, right. So how does this happen? How does the cell secrete milk? This is one cell of the alveolus. You can see that it's like any other cell. It's got microvilli at the apex, but it is doing something very peculiar. It is releasing fat droplets from its apex. Each fat droplet is covered by pink colored lines seen here, indicating cytoplasm. So not only the fat is coming out of the cell, it is carrying a layer of cytoplasm with it. Remember this, I'm going to come back to it in a minute. It's also releasing these purple globules, which are containing protein. They are not covered by pink epithelium at all, pink cytoplasm. So now let's come to what is the method of secretion of fat? It's carrying a bit of cytoplasm with it. That means it's carrying a bit of the cell with it. This is apocrine secretion. The protein is not carrying the cell. It is merely being released from the cell and is therefore merocrine type of secretion. So fat secretion from the glandular cell is apocrine method of secretion. Protein is merocrine method of secretion. At the base of the cell, you can see a myoepitheliocyte and basement membrane as usual. Now, each cell is doing all this. So what will happen to the alveolus? Take a look. These are the alveoli. You can see how the alveoli are distended with milk. The milk is eosinophilic in its secretion, showing fat droplets, which are now actually represented by vacuoles. Can you see vacuoles here? So the fat droplets, they don't get stained. So instead of that, you can see such vacuolated gaps in the lumen. So this is what has happened to the alveoli. This will be reflected in the histological section. Before that, I want you to understand what is a myoepitheliocyte. A myoepitheliocyte is like an octopus. Okay. I've always thought of it that way. You can use any other analogy you want. But it's a cell that has gone and grasped the alveolus in this manner. Every time the myoepitheliocyte contracts, it releases the milk along the ductal system. Okay, so it helps in the milk drainage from the alveoli. That is why these myoepitheliocytes are important cells. Is this mammary gland the only cell where gland where I can find myoepithelial cells? No. They are found in many glands in the body. So my way of remembering is something, I don't know if it works for you, it works for me. I've always asked myself, if I eat mirchi, what will happen to me? Mirchi pieces, when they are eaten, what are the effects? The effect is lacrimation, tears from my eyes, salivation, saliva in my mouth, and also sweating. So 3 glands, lacrimal gland, salivary gland, sweat gland, always show presence of myoepithelial cells. So also mirchi M stands for mammary gland. Pieces P stands for prostate. So the 5 glands that show presence of myoepithelial cells are mirchi, mammary, pieces, prostate, lacrimation, salivation, and sweating. These are the 5 glands you should know. Okay? Or lacrimal gland, salivary gland, and sweat glands. Right. So, mammary gland during lactation, what does it look like? So, you can see the alveoli are distended with milk. The alveoli are closely packed together. There is milk content inside the lumen of each alveolus. The lobules are very well defined because they are so tightly packed with alveoli. The intralobular connective tissue is minimal. Interlobular connective tissue is also now reduced because lobules have started to encroach on it. And the adipose tissue is considerably increased. This is what a lactating mammary gland looks like. Question: what is a terminal ductal lobular unit? Now this is used very often in your senior years, and that's why I'm introducing this term to you. The lobule is referred to as a TDLU, terminal ductal lobular unit. What does it consist of? In an inactive mammary gland, in an active mammary gland. In an inactive mammary gland, it's made up of clusters of cells, intralobular ducts, and intralobular stroma or connective tissue. Only the lobule, you don't go out of it. Okay? Active mammary gland, it will be made up of alveoli with lumen, secreting milk, and so on. Again, intralobular collecting ducts and intralobular stroma. That is TDLU, which many have started to believe is the source where cancer begins and spreads. That's why we must know this term TDLU. Right. Active mammary gland actually is active under the effect of hormones estrogen and progesterone, prolactin, as well as gonadotrophins. For the entire development of mammary gland, it is progesterone and estrogen which help. Just before birth, it is the prolactin which shoots up, and it is when the baby begins to suckle, a reflex is set off from the brain which causes release of oxytocin, which results in milk let down. Okay? Right. Question: what is witch's milk? Again, you're suddenly very interested, isn't it? Yeah. Witch's milk is a kind of peculiar watery white milky material secreted from mammary glands of male and female neonates. This is because of milk production under the influence of maternal hormones that are flowing around. It will go away in a week or 2. What happens after lactation? After lactation, alveoli shrink, milk gets resorbed, and the gland goes back to resting stage. What happens in menopause then? In menopause, everything just regresses. The glandular cells regress, the ductal system reduces, the connective tissue becomes a little lax, the elastic fibers get reduced, and this is what is remaining of the mammary gland. Remember, cancer is the most common malignancy seen in females, cancer breast. It's usually seen from larger ductal epithelium. The smaller ductal epithelium may lead to what is called fibroadenoma. These are both general statements. So I hope you've enjoyed this lecture. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It will help you to help me to create many more such informative lectures for you. Students, I will not say I've enjoyed this class. I have enjoyed taking the class, but I have always lived this throughout this class. I have lived with the understanding that we are looking at a very important topic, and it's my responsibility to get maximum information across to you in a way that you will understand and remember. Thank you so much. See you across the screen in some other video.